The mountains stole my voice in a December storm, and for 1 year, I lived as a ghost among the living. Then I found her broken in the snow, a stranger with autumn hair and spring green eyes waiting to die. And my silent heart screamed the first word my throat had spoken in 12 frozen months, her name. They say the mountains take more than they give. They take your warmth, your courage, and sometimes they take the very words right out of your throat. I know this because I am that cowboy, and this is the story of how winter stole my voice and a woman I never expected brought it back to life. My name is Ezra Cole, and I was born with a singing voice that could calm wild horses and make grown men weep at Sunday services. My mother used to say God gave me that voice as compensation for taking my father before I could remember his face. For 32 years, that voice was my identity, my livelihood, my way of connecting with a world that often felt too harsh and too cold. December of that year started like any other on the Thornwood Ranch in Montana. The snow came early, blanketing the valley in white silence. I was moving a small herd of cattle down from the high pastures when the storm rolled in faster than any weather I had ever witnessed. The sky turned from gray to black in minutes, and the wind began screaming across the open range like something possessed by ancient fury. I lost 3 cattle that day. I nearly lost my own life. For 16 hours I wandered through whiteout conditions, calling for help until my throat burned raw and my lips cracked with frost. When they found me the next morning, collapsed against a fallen pine, my body was blue and my voice was gone. Not hoarse, not weak, gone. The doctors said the extreme cold had damaged something deep inside my throat. They used words I did not understand and offered treatments that did not work. By Christmas, I had accepted that Ezra Cole, the singing cowboy, was dead. What remained was just a silent ghost wearing his skin. The months that followed were the loneliest of my existence. I sold my guitar because looking at it brought too much pain. I stopped attending church because I could not bear to hear others sing the hymns I once led. I withdrew from the other ranch hands, communicating only through nods, gestures, and hastily written notes on scraps of paper. My boss, Henry Thornwood, was patient with me. He gave me solitary work, mending fences and checking remote pasture lines where no one expected conversation. By the following December, I had built walls around my heart as tall and cold as the mountains that had broken me. I told myself this was protection. In truth, it was slow death. The day everything changed began with unusual warmth. The temperature had risen just enough to turn the previous night's snowfall into a treacherous layer of ice beneath fresh powder. I was riding my horse, a steady mare named Copper, along the north ridge when I heard it. A sound that did not belong to the wilderness. A human cry, distant but unmistakable, carried on the wind. Every instinct told me to ignore it. Getting involved meant interaction. Interaction meant revealing my broken condition. But something deeper than instinct, something I thought the cold had killed along with my voice, made me turn Copper toward that sound. I found her at the bottom of a ravine, half buried in snow beside an overturned wagon. She was young, perhaps 25, with hair the color of autumn leaves and a face pale as the snow surrounding her. Her horse was gone, likely fled in panic. One of her legs was twisted at an angle that made my stomach turn. She looked up at me with eyes green as spring grass, filled with pain and desperate hope. I wanted to call out to her, to tell her help had arrived, but when I opened my mouth, nothing emerged, not a whisper, not a sound, just cold air and shame. She must have seen something in my face because her expression shifted from hope to confusion. I dismounted and made my way carefully down the ravine, sliding more than walking through the icy slope. When I reached her, I knelt in the snow and placed my hand on her shoulder, hoping the touch would communicate what my voice could not. Her name was Clara Weston. I learned this later, after I had splinted her leg with branches and strips torn from my own coat. after I had lifted her onto copper with strength I did not know I possessed. After the long, agonizing journey back to the ranch, where every bump and jolt made her cry out in pain that I absorbed into my silent heart, the ranch doctor set her leg properly. The women from nearby homesteads came to tend her wounds and keep her comfortable. I should have disappeared back into my solitude then. My job was done, but something kept me returning to the small cabin where they had placed her to recover. At first, I simply stood in the doorway, checking that she was alive, that my rescue had not been in vain. Clara would see me there and smile weakly. She did not seem disturbed by my silence. She did not demand explanations. She simply accepted my presence like one accepts rainfall or sunrise, as something natural that requires no justification. On the third day, she spoke to me directly. "They told me about you," she said, her voice still weak but warm. "About your voice, about the storm." She patted the chair beside her bed. "Sit with me. I have plenty of voice for both of us." I should have refused. I should have protected both of us from whatever strange connection was forming. Instead, I sat. Clara talked. She talked about her journey west to meet a fiancé who had sent for her from California. She talked about how his letters had stopped 6 months ago, how she had come anyway because she had nothing left in the East. She talked about her fears and her dreams, and her conviction that God had put me on that ridge at precisely the right moment. I listened. For the first time since losing my voice, I discovered that listening could be its own form of conversation. I learned to respond with my eyes, with small gestures, with written notes that I composed carefully by candlelight. Clara read each one as if it were poetry. "You write beautifully," she said one evening, holding a note where I had described the way sunset painted the mountains. "Your voice may be silent, but your words are not." Something cracked inside me then. Something that had been frozen for a year began, slowly, to thaw. As Clara healed, I found myself sharing more through those written notes. I told her about my mother and the songs she taught me. I told her about the storm that took my voice and the despair that nearly took my life. I told her things I had never told anyone, truths too vulnerable for spoken words but somehow safe in ink. She shared in return. Her fiancé, she confessed, had been an arrangement more than a love. Her family had lost everything in a fire, and marriage to a Western businessman had seemed Ed the only path forward. His silence, she now suspected, meant he had found someone else or met some grim fate. Either way, she was alone in the world. "Not alone," I wrote on a scrap of paper. "Not anymore." The look she gave me in response contained more warmth than any summer I could remember. January passed into February. Clara's leg healed enough for her to walk with assistance. I became that assistance, offering my arm for slow walks around the ranch, through snow that sparkled like scattered diamonds in the winter sun. The other ranch hands noticed. Henry Thornwood noticed. He pulled me aside one afternoon with knowing eyes. "She is changing you," he said simply. "Whatever magic that woman carries, do not let it go." I nodded, unable to express the fear that lived alongside my growing hope. What if my voice never returned? What kind of life could I offer Clara? A silent husband, a wordless father. The doubts circled like wolves, waiting for weakness. The turning point came on a night in late February. A fire broke out in the main barn, sparked by a lantern knocked over in the wind. The ranch hands scrambled to save the horses, but the flames spread with terrifying speed. Through the chaos, I saw Clara stumble from her cabin, drawn by the commotion, still unsteady on her healing leg. Then I saw the burning beam above her, cracking, beginning to fall. What happened next exists in my memory as fragments, like pieces of a shattered mirror. I remember running. I remember the heat searing my face. I remember throwing my body against hers, sending us both tumbling away from the impact zone. I remember the beam crashing exactly where she had been standing, and I remember screaming her name. The sound tore from my throat like something alive, something that had been trapped in a dark cave for over a year and finally found its way to light. Clara, the word W, as rough, broken, barely recognizable as language. But it was voice, it was sound, it was miracle. Clara stared at me with tears streaming down her smoke-stained face. Around us the chaos continued, but for that moment, we existed outside of time. "Ezra," she whispered, you spoke my name." I tried again, forcing air through damaged pathways that protested every effort. "Clara," clearer this time, stronger. "Are you hurt?" She laughed through her tears, a sound of pure joy that cut through the crackling flames and shouting voices. "No," she said. "No, I am not hurt. You saved me, again." The fire was eventually controlled. The barn was lost, but no lives were taken. In the aftermath, as we sat wrapped in blankets while the sun rose over the smoldering remains, I discovered that my voice was returning in fragments. Certain sounds came easier than others. Full sentences remained difficult, but after a year of complete silence, even single words felt like treasure. The doctor examined my throat the next day and found what he called remarkable healing. He credited the extended rest, the natural recovery of damaged tissue. He did not understand, as I did, that voices are connected to hearts, and hearts sometimes require love to unlock what medicine cannot touch. Clara stayed through spring. By then, our attachment had deepened into something neither of us tried to name, but both of us recognized. She helped me practice speaking, patient with my stumbling attempts, celebrating every recovered word. I taught her to ride properly, to understand the language of horses, to see the beauty in a land that had initially seemed harsh and unforgiving. On a May evening, with wildflowers blooming across the valley, and my voice recovered enough for complete sentences, I asked her the question that had been building in my heart for months. I asked imperfectly, with words that cracked and wavered. But I asked, "Will you stay?" Not as a guest, not as someone recovering. "Will you stay as my wife, my partner, my voice when mine fails and my silence when you need peace?" Clara answered not with words, but with a kiss that spoke eloquently of everything words could never capture. When she finally pulled back, her eyes held the same spring-green promise that had captured me in that snow-covered ravine. "I will stay," she said. For every December and every season after, we married in June, in the small church where I had once led hymns. My voice was not what it had been. The high notes were gone forever, and long speeches left me hoarse. But when I spoke my vows, every word carried the weight of a man who understood what it meant to lose language and love simultaneously, and to find both restored through grace. Clara sometimes asks me what truly healed my voice. Was it time, as the doctors suggest? Was it the desperation of that moment, the adrenaline of crisis? I tell her the truth as I understand it. My voice was frozen by December cold and locked away by the walls I built around my heart. It was never truly gone, only buried beneath fear and isolation. Love did not heal my throat. Love healed my willingness to try, to risk, to push sound through damaged pathways because silence was no longer enough. Clara needed my voice in that moment of danger, and my heart found a way to give her what my body had denied. We have 3 children now, 2 boys and a girl. I sing to them sometimes, simple songs in a lower register than the hymns of my youth. They do not know their father once commanded concert halls and church gatherings. They know only that Papa has a gentle voice that helps them sleep, and a way with horses that borders on magic. Clara still loves to talk. She fills our home with words and laughter and the constant music of a full life, and I still love to listen. But now, when I have something important to say, I say it. Every December, when the first snow falls, I stand on our porch and speak my gratitude into the cold air. I thank the storm that broke me. I thank the mountains that nearly killed me. I thank the God who sent a stranger into a ravine so that a silent cowboy could find his voice in the act of saving her. They say the mountains take more than they give. Perhaps that is true. But what I know with certainty is this: Sometimes what they take, they are only holding. Sometimes the voice you think is lost is simply waiting. Waiting for the right person, the right moment, the right love to call it home.
My name is Ezra Cole. I am a cowboy who lost his voice in December snow and found it again saving a stranger.
That stranger became my wife, my home, my reason for speaking. And if my voice fails me again someday, as age and time may demand, I will not be afraid, because Clara will be there. And between us, we will always have words enough for love.